Hello all and welcome back to the shed on this bank holiday weekend. At the time of filming it's bank holiday weekend. I don't know if this will go out at bank holiday weekend, but also amid the COVID-19 lockdown that the whole world's experiencing at the moment. But I am going to be cracking on with a few bits. Obviously I've still got the America into Bonneville project on the go, but also so the next week, before the whole COVID lockdown, I'd actually, ironically enough, booked the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off work to give myself a long stretch where I could self-isolate, not leave the house and just crack on and not see anybody with the bikes. I wanted to get quite a bit of work done on this, I've still kept that. I'm still going to do that because another thing that's kind of cropped up that I want to try and address whilst I've got the time off and I don't need the bike every day for work is it's due for a valve clearance check, and I suspect at just approaching 40,000 miles we're going to be changing some of the shims, so a little bit more of an involved job on that, and then a few other things as it's off the road that Jen would like, because obviously it is Jen's bike. I'm just borrowing it whilst I'm fiddling around and with my two other Bonnevilles that I haven't finished yet. One of those things is she is when that Bonneville, the other one, was mine. Obviously I did the whole airbox remove, different exhaust pods, rejet, blah blah blah. In doing that, as any performance upgrades, you quickly find that stock springs, clutch springs are not man enough on a Bonneville, and they usually need the beefier ones, either the Barnett clutch springs or EBCs or whatever heavy duty spring you want to use, which I've done. Yeah, it does make the lever a fair bit heavier than stock. I don't really notice it, I don't really mind. Jen has not enjoyed it at all. She does not like that. If she had to pick one thing about the bike that she otherwise is enamoured with and is the best bike she's ever had, in her opinion, it's just that clutch is too heavy and makes it a very unpleasant riding experience for her. So we're going to address that, and I'm going to take a bit of a step backwards and put a stockish airbox back in. Obviously downsize the jets, kind of reduce the power a little bit, but we're not talking massive performance gains anyway with one of these. We'll leave the tech exhaust on, obviously, but hopefully that will mean, because the tech exhaust, I think you can run that with the baffle in, with a stock setup on the bike. You don't have to change the jets or anything. Obviously I like the baffle out, it's a little bit fruitier, so we'll go up. Well, I'll actually be going down on the jet sizes. I won't need as much because we're going to be putting the stock airbox in. But we're going to have a little fiddle around with that. Put the stock airbox in, although I am going to debaffle the airbox, which might be a separate video in itself. I did that to the hardtail Bonneville before it was a hardtail. I debaffled that airbox, and we'll go into that. So we're going to do that to this one. Change the clutch springs, do the valve checks, and stick a new chain and sprocket set on there as well. So yeah, it's been a bit of an expensive couple of days for me, ordering all these bits. Annoyingly, obviously with the valve clearances, I've got to check the clearances. If they're out of spec, which I suspect they will be, it's obviously the whole camshaft and everything comes out to get to the shims on this particular engine. And then I can measure the shims that I've got, and then have to order the correct shims that I will need. So I've got everything else on order, all stuff like gaskets and bolt seals and oil and da-da-da-da. Obviously I can't order the shims yet because I haven't got them, and obviously in this lockdown period most of the stuff I seem to be ordering seems to be coming pretty quickly and as normal, but you can never be too sure, so it's all going to be a little bit of a juggling act. I'm going to get some of it done. I'll be waiting for some other parts, I imagine, which means during the week I'll also be cracking on with this. What I'm basically saying is I'll be filming loads of little bits of videos, but this one is probably going to be starting off by doing the valve clearance checks, which we're going to crack on with. So yeah, I've got a busy week ahead. I'm going to be jumping from both bikes, but hopefully it'll provide you with some nice content during this lockdown period. I'll try this again. This phone keeps, camera on the phone just keeps crapping out. It's ancient. But fourth time I've tried recording this. So the bike's in the house now. I thought I'll bring it in because if I don't get all the parts I need in time, and I've got a bit of, you know, I can't go any further with this, then I can always go back out in the shed and have the space out there to work on the other Bonneville. So yeah, I figured just gives me a bit more room. So this one's in here now. The tank, obviously for the valve check, the tank has to come off and the seat comes off. Made up my little makeshift workbench here. There's a stock airbox down there as well. That'll get a bit of dissecting. This is purely just the valve video. And I've got a valve clearance check video, I think, that I did on that Bonneville when it hit 12k, and that was just checking the clearances. So this will be very similar, the first part, but I'm pretty certain I'm going to be changing some shims on this one. We're at almost 40,000 miles now. It's a 2001 Bonneville. I've never done any of them. As I say, riding it the past kind of couple of, what was it? Probably a couple of weeks now. Certainly last week, it's getting a little bit that noisy. So I think it's time to do it. So yeah, we're going to crack on. So we've got obviously the 4 bolts. You are fucked. I think it just crapped out again. Okay, so we've got the 4 bolts here. It has. Oh, I think the phone just crapped out again, but where were we? So I've already cracked off the 4 valve cover bolts. I'm quite interested. I think these are the older type seals on there. The new ones I think are completely brown, which is interesting. But I have ordered the brown ones. I can't remember exactly what the issue was. I think they're slightly thicker or larger, perhaps. Not that we really had a problem with these ones leaking, but I think there's a slight leak on the gasket, so that I've ordered a new gasket anyway. But I have to say, they weren't torqued down very hard at all on there. Slightly looser than I would have expected, which might account for the weeping there. Anyway, let's get this off. So evenly slacken all those off. And it's usually fairly unlikely that the valve cover will come off just by lifting it. Normally you have to give it some gentle taps with a rubber mallet, and I just, you're not trying to whack it off, you're just trying to break that seal. And what will normally happen, you'll do this seemingly getting nowhere for ages, and then eventually it will just go. We need to orientate the cam lobes to the point where you measure the clearances between the bottoms of these, and there's 2 ways of doing that. The correct way, if you like, is to take your alternator cover off and get a socket on the nut there and turn the engine over that way. Or if you don't want to disturb the gasket on that side, what you can do is get the bike on a stand like I've done. I usually select 5th gear, high gear, and then remove the spark plugs to make it easy to turn the engine over, and then by rotating the rear wheel you can turn the cams, turn the engine over and get your cams orientated. So I should just get us in the right spot. There you go, so I'm just spinning the rear wheel now, and at the front of the engine here, this is obviously your exhaust, and this is your inlet, the carb engine, because obviously everything comes in this way, goes out that, as you can see. See, one there, and then on the other side you've got those there. So we'll work from left to right, inlet 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then exhaust 1, 2, 3 and 4. Right, so depending what you look at, whether it's the Haynes manual or the Triumph manual, see on the Triumph manual we've got the lobes pointing off that way. The Haynes depicts it, the point of measuring them, with the lobes pointing in. I'm guessing it doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference. It's just getting the biggest amount of gap beneath the cam lobe. I think I mentioned this on the other video anyway. But we'll get them both set up like that and then measure them. So also what I've done is in preparation, so this is basically a depiction of that view down there. So if we were looking at the engine thusly, so we've got here carb side, exhaust side, and that's the intake 1, intake 2, intake 3, intake 4, exhaust 1, exhaust 2, exhaust 3, exhaust 4. And these are the tolerances, so 0.25 to 0.30 for the exhaust, and 0.15 to 0.20 for the intakes. So when we're measuring them with the feeler gauge, I can back to show you, or can record them down on here, see what's in spec, see what's out of spec, and then by how much. So bear with me if this is a bit of a mishmash, because I think the camera cocked up again, so I'm going to do all the valve clearances again, at least check them, because I don't think any of that recorded, but if it did, then this makes no sense. But here we go again. Right then, here we go. So turn the back wheel till we get the lobes pointing like this, and then we'll get the feeler gauge in. So intake side, our tolerance is 0.15 to 0.20, so I'm just going to go straight in with a 15 first, just to see what we've got there, and that slides in fine, but not on this side, that's tight. So let's try and find out what they are going to be. So 15 was loose, I'm going to take a 10 and a 6 because I haven't got each one in increments, so I've got to make them up. Okay, I would say not much drag on that as it comes out actually. Let's try 17. And 9 and 8, so that's 17. Let's see. So that's a bit tight. A little bit of drag all the way back out. It's probably ideally somewhere between a 0.16 and a 0.17. 20 on that one. Just feeling a little bit of resistance when it comes back out. Say that. 18 on that one, so that's the last one. So 18 and 20. So that's where we're at. We've got, that's the way it sits, if you like, relating to each of these. So inlet 1, 18, So that's bang in the middle of the tolerance. That was 0.15 to 0.20. Inlet 2, that one is 0.20, so right at the top end of the tolerance. On the other side, this side, we're at 14, so we're tightened up on that one. So that's out, and that one's in. So I'd probably try and get that one back into the middle, because as it's at the upper end of the tolerance. Here we go on this one. So that's okay. That's okay. That's kind of 0.29. That's kind of quite close to the upper tolerance. 28. It's kind of okay. So I would probably, yeah, try and bring that one down as well. So they're not super far off, but yeah, that's where we're at. So we are going to take the shims out and replace them. So that will be the next stage of this. I'm just hoping we've managed to get some of this recorded, because it's been an absolute pain in the backside as the phone keeps crapping out. But let me just bring us in. So our next stage, what we need to do is going to be, and you can't obviously mix any of these up, but we're going to have to take the whole camshaft here off. So that involves these coming off, the cam holders, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. Those cannot be mixed up at all. They have to go exactly back where they are. This is where we're going to have to be really careful and label everything, make sure you know where everything is. Same, so like the shims, the buckets, the cam, everything is just got to make sure it goes back to where it was. You also see on here as well, you've got this backlash gear here. This has to stay ideally in line. If you can try and see this, see on there, you'll see you want to keep these aligned, and the way you do that is, I can just do this one-handed but turn it round. Okay, you can see there. So when you might hear about the backlash holding tool, so you can see there is a hole through here and then a smaller hole on the backlash gear. So that's like a 6mm hole going into a 4mm hole. So you just basically need to put something through there that holds it. Now Triumph, I think, do a tool. It's probably very, very expensive. But looking at that, that's the sort of thing you could just get a bolt and grind down one end, or find something in the toolbox that just basically holds those two together. And there's one on each there. So that's something else we need to do. The oil feed pipe, let me come around this side. That will come off. So you'll need crush washers there, and then down in there there's an O-ring in that one that just pulls out there. There'll be an O-ring there that will probably need replacing, or I will replace it anyway just because it's all apart. So let's see what I've got. Let's see if I've got any of this footage. So that's the first, hopefully the first bit of the video is getting the clearances and what we've got. Then we've got to get the shims out, so we'll be pulling these out, but we're going to want to hold the pins. So before I start loosening anything off, yeah, I do need to find something to hold these. So right then, so I had a quick rummage around in the bits and pieces box. I found these, which are some stainless steel standoffs. I think they might have been in the scrap bin at work. They come off a product that we make, and I looked at that and went, that looks like it's an M4,
and that looks like it could be M6. So let's have a little look, and lo and behold, they are an absolute perfect fit for this particular application. So 6mm obviously fits in that bit, and you can see there we've got thread poking through on the 4, so it's going to hold those perfectly in place. I'll be careful, I don't want to drop this down into the engine anywhere though, so do have to be a little bit careful. I'll be plugging all the relevant holes up. So what I need to do is now orientate everything. So we have, looking at it from the left hand side, you've got these alignment marks on the teeth here. So that one is in between the dash is in between the 2 dashes, and then you've got the dots on this side, 2 dots there, and then on the other side, if that shows up, you can see we've got the word, oh, where am I? Top, at the very top. So that's the position we want everything in. If we're going to start taking it apart, I'm going to just plug up some of the holes with some rag in a minute, pop my pins in, and then remove these. And I need to mark all these up, as I said, and make sure everything goes back to its original place. Pins in. Take the wheel feed line off first. Don't drop. The old copper washers down. I think there's just one on the top. Yeah. So we'll probably try and change that O-ring. Well, I'll try and change it. We will change that O-ring there as well. Rag stuffed in. Got my little pins in place. So just going to start slackening these off. Just break them off evenly. Little dowels under there as well. Yeah, so you got little dowels here, one on each side. Right. So I'll just show you, this is where I'm keeping everything, so nothing's getting mixed up. Can you just faintly, I don't know if you can quite see, but there is, for instance, a 4 and a little arrow. On there, just to identify it. You can put marker pen on there as well, but the arrow shows the direction it's pointing. So these are all, each one where it came off from, so with each camshaft. So that one will stay there, that one will stay there. All of those are as they came off, and then each shim and bucket will go there as well. And providing the cat doesn't jump up here and knock everything over, everything should stay fine. There we go, shims and buckets out, and there we have everything laid out. Again, hopefully the cat won't knock it all over. And I think I'll end it there, and I think the next video we'll go through, maybe I'll measure, I might do I'll do the measuring in and get the shims ordered, and maybe wait till the shims come in before I put that video up when it's all going back together, because I've certainly got, you know, the chain and sprockets have arrived today, so I've got the airbox bits to do, so there's a lot to be getting on with. Oh, and the clutch, I can get that off. I'll have the oil draining, so I can get the clutch cover off and get the other springs on. Oh, of course, and then we'll have the yeah, I've got loads to do. Thanks for watching. See you in part 2. Take it easy.